Most readers never notice this, not because it is hidden, but because it appears too quietly to demand attention. It's a detail so unassuming, so seamlessly woven into the grand tapestry of biblical narratives, that it almost seems designed to be passed over. Yet, once seen, it can't be unseen. It echoes through the corridors of ancient scripture, a faint but persistent whisper that connects disparate stories and characters across millennia. This is not about a secret code or a hidden message. Instead, it's about a recurring motif, a subtle pattern that appears in moments of profound transition and divine encounter. It's a detail hiding in plain sight, waiting patiently for the careful observer to pause and wonder why it's there at all. Across biblical texts, there are details that repeat subtly. They do not announce themselves, they wait to be observed. Think of the well, for instance. It appears not merely as a source of water, but as a stage for pivotal encounters. It's at a well that Abraham's servant finds a wife for Isaac. It's at a well that Jacob meets Rachel. And it's at a well where Moses encounters Zipporah. These are not coincidences. The well in these narratives symbolizes a point of convergence, a place of transition between the known and the unknown, where life-altering covenants are forged and destinies are set in motion. The texts don't explicitly state, the well is a place of significant meetings. Instead, the pattern itself becomes the message. It is a quiet language spoken through recurring settings, inviting the reader to connect the dots across different books and eras. This repetition acts as a literary thread, stitching together stories of patriarchal lineage and national beginnings with a shared symbolic geography. The Bible was written across centuries, cultures, and historical moments. Its compilation spans over 1,000 years, involving dozens of authors from diverse backgrounds, shepherds, kings, prophets, and scholars. They wrote in different languages, primarily Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, and addressed unique historical and social contexts. The world of early Genesis is vastly different from the Roman-occupied Judea of the New Testament. Yet certain elements remain remarkably consistent. This continuity is one of the most studied aspects of the scriptures. While theological themes like covenant, redemption, and divine sovereignty are the most obvious threads, more subtle literary and symbolic patterns also endure. These are the small recurring details like the significance of mountains as places of divine revelation, or the symbolic weight of bread in moments of communion and sustenance. The presence of these motifs across such a vast and varied collection of texts suggests a deep-seated cultural and spiritual grammar, a shared way of understanding the world and humanity's place within it. These patterns transcend individual authorship, pointing to a collective consciousness or a guiding tradition that shaped the narrative over generations. So, what is this specific, almost invisible detail? It is the simple act of taking off one's sandals. Consider the moment Moses approaches the burning bush in Exodus. He is on Mount Horeb, and a voice from the flames commands him, "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." This act marks Moses' transition from a shepherd in exile to the chosen deliverer of his people. It is a gesture of reverence, humility, and recognition of entering a sacred space, a domain where the divine is present. Generations later, this same instruction is given to Joshua. As he prepares to lead the Israelites in the conquest of Jericho, he encounters a mysterious figure who identifies himself as the commander of the Lord's army. Joshua asks what message he has, and the commander replies, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." Again, the removal of footwear signifies a shift. Joshua is no longer just a military leader. He is an instrument in a divine campaign, standing on consecrated soil. This repeated command isn't just a practical instruction. It's a profound symbolic act. Some scholars suggest these details were intentional. Others believe they reflect shared tradition. Either way, their presence invites attention. These details do not force interpretation. They allow space for reflection. The act of removing sandals isn't explained with a lengthy theological discourse in the text. It simply happens. This lack of explicit explanation is in itself significant. It invites the reader to pause and contemplate the meaning. Why sandals? In the ancient world, sandals were what connected a person to the dust and dirt of the profane, everyday world. They represented one's earthly journey, one's travels, one's autonomy. To remove them was to strip away the mundane and stand vulnerable and pure before the sacred. It was an acknowledgement of one's own mortality and impurity in the face of the holy and eternal. By leaving this symbolism implicit, the text encourages a personal, meditative engagement. It doesn't tell you what to think. It presents a scene and allows the resonance of the act to settle in the reader's mind. This creates a more profound and personal connection to the narrative than a direct explanation ever could. The space left by the absence of commentary is filled by the reader's own contemplation and awe. What is often overlooked is not always insignificant. The pattern extends beyond just Moses and Joshua. While not a direct command, the concept echoes in other parts of the scripture. In the New Testament, John the Baptist declares his unworthiness in relation to Jesus, stating, "I am not worthy to stoop down and untie the thong of his sandals." Here, the sandal is a symbol of status and authority. To untie another's sandal was a task for the lowliest servant. John's statement is a powerful declaration of humility, using the same symbolic language of footwear to define his relationship to the divine. The detail, though subtle, is consistent. It's a thread that connects the law, the prophets, and the Gospels. It speaks to a universal human experience, the feeling of smallness and reverence in the presence of something infinitely greater. This recurring detail, which so many might read over without a second thought, becomes a quiet testament to the enduring nature of awe and the human response to encountering the sacred. It's a detail that doesn't shout for attention but rewards the one who pays it. When small details endure across generations, they suggest meaning beyond chance. The persistence of the sandal motif across such a vast timeline and diverse authorship implies a shared understanding of sacred protocol and human humility. It's as if this gesture was so deeply embedded in the spiritual consciousness of the writers that it emerged naturally in their storytelling. It wasn't a literary device they consciously decided to insert for effect. It was simply the way one portrayed an encounter with the holy. This consistency provides a powerful sense of authenticity and depth to the texts. It makes the world of the Bible feel more real, more cohesive. It suggests that these stories are not just isolated tales but are part of a single, sprawling narrative held together by a common spiritual language. The endurance of this small detail speaks volumes. It shows how a simple physical act can carry immense symbolic weight, and how that meaning can be preserved and transmitted through centuries of storytelling, connecting believers across time to the same fundamental posture of reverence. Rather than offering answers, these details raise questions that continue to resonate. Why this specific act? What does it truly mean to stand on holy ground? Is it a physical location or a state of being? The detail forces us to consider the nature of sacredness itself. It suggests that holiness is not something to be casually approached. It demands a change in posture, a shedding of the profane, a conscious act of humility. This act of removing one's sandals serves as a threshold. On one side is the ordinary world, and on the other is a direct encounter with the divine. By focusing on this small but significant action, the narrative slows down, forcing both the character and the reader to acknowledge the gravity of the moment. These details don't provide easy answers about the nature of God, but they beautifully illustrate the human side of the divine-human relationship. They show us how humanity has consistently tried to bridge the gap between the earthly and the transcendent through acts of reverence and awe. The question isn't just why they took off their sandals, but what we are asked to set aside when we seek to approach the sacred in our own lives. The world of ancient texts is filled with countless such details, quiet patterns, and subtle echoes waiting to be discovered. Each one offers a new lens through which to view these timeless stories, enriching our understanding and deepening our connection to them. Exploring these layers is a journey of its own, a quiet pilgrimage through the pages of history. It reminds us that sometimes the most profound messages are not found in the grand pronouncements, but in the softest whispers. If you enjoy exploring overlooked details in ancient texts, consider subscribing for future documentaries where we will continue to uncover the subtle artistry and hidden depths of these sacred narratives. Your curiosity helps bring these ancient worlds to life. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. What details do you think most readers pass over without ever noticing? The scriptures are a vast landscape, and every reader walks a different path through them. Perhaps for you, it is not the removal of sandals, but the recurring significance of a certain number, the symbolic use of light and darkness, or the subtle way that meals are used to frame moments of covenant and betrayal. The beauty of these texts is their inexhaustible depth. Share your own observations in the comments below. Let's continue the conversation and learn from the details that have captured your attention.